Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to really get you informed on the big topics cutting through the noise. Today, we're looking at something pretty significant, a proposed law that could really shake things up for international talent in the US. Specifically, those brilliant folks looking to build careers here after studying. International students often drive so much innovation, adding huge value to the economy. But this new bill, well, they might change their path quite a bit, and that in turn affects the companies relying on them. So, our mission today is clear. Let's unpack the Dignity Act of 2025. We need to understand its surprising impact on the Optional Practical Training Program, OPT. We'll get into the details, the money side of things, and really explain why this matters to you, whether you're a student planning your future, an employer hunting for talent, or just, curious about U.S. policy.
Yeah, this is definitely a topic where you need the nuances to see the whole picture. It's complex. Our goal is to give you that clear understanding quickly but thoroughly,
Yeah.
so you walk away informed, not overwhelmed. Maybe we should start with the basics. What is OPT?
Okay, yes, let's dive right in. OPT, Optional Practical Training. For many international students, it's that vital first step, right, from the classroom into the U.S. professional world. But what is it exactly? What makes it such a critical bridge?
Well, at its core, OPT lets international students on F1 visas get hands-on work experience. And it has to be directly related to their major. Typically, it's for up to 12 months, but for STEM field science, technology, engineering, math, it can often go up to 36 months. That's a big deal. It's basically a way for the U.S. to keep some of the bright minds it educates, letting them apply their skills right here.
And there's been this really unique feature, something maybe not everyone realizes, the tax exemption. This is where it gets really interesting for students and for businesses.
Exactly. It's fascinating how taxes work here. For generally up to 5 calendar years, OPT participants are usually classed as non-resident aliens for tax purposes. This status is often linked to their F1 visa, the temporary nature of their stay. It means they're exempt from FICA payroll taxes. That's Social Security 6.2% and Medicare, which is 1.45%.
So for the students, that means more money in their pocket, right? Higher take-home pay. But here's the kicker for businesses, especially innovative ones. The employer also saves their share of those FICA taxes. So hiring an OPT worker is effectively about 15.3% cheaper than hiring a U.S. citizen or permanent resident.
Right, that's 7.65% the employee saves. The employer saves their matching 7.65% too.
That's not trivial, 15.3%. For a startup, maybe that means hiring another engineer. It's a real competitive edge.
It absolutely is. It's a significant financial incentive that definitely influences hiring decisions, no question.
Okay, so let's shift gears. This proposed legislation, the one that could change all this, the Dignity Act of 2025, it was introduced back in July. It's a big immigration reform bill, but it has these specific, potentially huge impacts on OPT.
That's right. And the key part for OPT is pretty straightforward. It aims to get rid of that FICA exemption we just talked about. If this passes as written, OPT students and their employers would each have to pay their share of FICA taxes, the full 15.3% total. So the student pays 7.65% from their wages, and the employer pays the matching 7.65%. It fundamentally changes the cost calculation.
Let's make that concrete. Put some numbers on it so you can really feel the impact. Say a student earns $60,000 a year. Right now, no FICA tax if this changes.
They'd suddenly lose about $4,590 from their annual take-home pay. That's the 7.65% hitting their paycheck.
Wow. And the employer?
The employer owes the same amount, another $4,590 on top of the salary.
So if a company hires, say, 5 OPT grads at that salary, that's almost $23,000 extra in payroll costs per year, suddenly.
Exactly. It essentially doubles the FICA tax outflow related to that employee compared to now. It's a major shift. It hits both sides hard and could, really make companies and students rethink things.
So if this part of the Dignity Act goes through, what are the knock-on effects? Who feels the impact most? We're talking students, universities, employers. It sounds like a pretty wide ripple effect.
Oh, definitely wide. For students, the immediate thing is less money, lower disposable income. And it's not just like less fun money. It could make it harder to pay rent, loans, save anything. For some, it might honestly make them question staying in the U.S. post-graduation, or maybe even coming here to study in the first place.
Especially when other countries might look more attractive financially after graduation.
Precisely. Countries like Canada, the UK, they have their own systems. This change could make the U.S. look less competitive for that initial post-grad work period. Then you have the employers, especially smaller businesses, startups. They rely on OPT talent. Hiring costs are tough for them. They might cut back on recruiting OPT grads or look for domestic hires instead. even if the OPT candidate has specific skills they need.
Which could impact innovation, maybe. Less diversity of thought in teams.
Potentially, yes. It could slow things down in some sectors. And don't forget the universities. If international student numbers drop because the post-grad prospects look dimmer, that hits tuition revenue, which is critical for many schools. It also reduces campus diversity, that global mix of perspectives, which is so valuable.
Right, and you mentioned specific groups potentially hit harder.
Yeah, it's worth noting students from India, for example. They make up a huge portion of international students, especially in STEM, and are major participants in OPT. So this change would disproportionately affect them, just given the numbers.
That really paints a picture of interconnected consequences. Okay, so why? Why is this change being proposed? We need the context here. You mentioned the Dignity Act as broader immigration reform.
Exactly. It's part of a bigger push to overhaul various aspects of the U.S. immigration system. Things like green card backlogs are also part of this conversation. So the proponents of removing the OPT exemption, their argument often centers on fairness. They talk about correcting what they see as an unfair advantage for OPT hires and addressing labor market distortions.
The idea being that the current exemption makes international grads artificially cheaper than U.S. grads.
That's the argument, that it creates an uneven playing field, potentially disadvantaging recent U.S. citizen graduates looking for those same entry-level jobs. So removing the exemption, in their view, levels that field, makes the tax structure more uniform for everyone working.
Okay, but then there's the other side. The critics. Universities, advocacy groups, they're pushing back hard.
They really are. They're sounding alarms, warning that this isn't just about tax parity. They argue that taking away this exemption makes the U.S. significantly less attractive to the world's best and brightest talent.
Losing a competitive edge globally.
That's the fear, that it could compromise U.S. innovation, research, economic competitiveness down the line. They point to all the contributions international grads, especially in STEM, make, startups founded, research breakthroughs.
So it's a real tug of war, leveling the domestic playing field versus maintaining global competitiveness for talent.
That's essentially the core debate. You have arguments for tax uniformity and addressing perceived labor market issues on one side, and on the other, serious concerns about losing the edge in attracting global talent, especially when other countries are actively recruiting these individuals. It makes you think, what's the right balance? What are the long-term trade-offs for the economy for innovation?
It's clearly a complex calculation with a lot riding on it. So where does the Dignity Act stand now? What should people be doing? It's crucial to know, right now, this is still proposed legislation. It's working its way through Congress. So for the moment, that OPT tax exemption is still in place. No immediate change today, but awareness is key.
Absolutely. Being proactive is vital. First step, stay updated, keep an eye on Congress, watch the bill's progress in the House and Senate. Things can change. Second, contingency planning. If you're a student who might use OPT, maybe start thinking about budgets with potentially lower income. If you're an employer, start factoring in potentially higher payroll costs for future OPT hires. Just pencil it out.
So planning ahead financially. What else?
Third, get expert advice if you need it. Talk to immigration lawyers, tax professionals. They can give personalized guidance. And for students, your university's International Student Office is a key resource. Stay connected with them. They'll likely have the latest updates. And finally, remember, this Dignity Act is big. It includes other things too, like potential changes to green card processes. Some of those other parts might pass even if the OPT part changes, or vice versa. It's a whole package to watch.
That's really practical advice. Being informed, planning ahead, seeking guidance. That seems like the best approach in this kind of evolving situation. Okay, so today we've taken a deep dive into the Dignity Act and what it might mean for the OPT program. We looked at how changing those FICA tax exemptions could really impact international students, employers, and maybe even the wider U.S. economy. It's complex, lots of angles, and knowing the details is crucial.
And it leaves us with a bigger question, doesn't it? In our interconnected world, how does a country like the U.S. balance wanting to support its domestic workforce with the need to attract and keep top talent from around the globe? The final shape of laws like the Dignity Act will really influence that balance for years to come.
All the best, and we will meet again with another important matter again.